Welcome back, ninth grade scholars. This is Nefertari and Kinjay here with your Week 9, Lesson 39, Distance Learning Lesson. What can I expect from these videos? Each daily video will be a bit different depending on the lesson, but there is a general structure you can expect. A list of the resources and materials needed for the lesson, a brief overview of the learning for the lesson, a modeling of the reading, thinking, speaking, and writing required for the lesson, and a preview of upcoming lessons. In our last lesson, we closely read an article centered on teenage love and the benefits of positive thinking. In the article, the world is neither good nor bad. Well, this week, we'll analyze a poem in the form of Edgar Allan Poe's famous last published poem, Annabel Lee, and today we'll read and complete our first read note catcher. Always remember that after you complete the lesson activities for the day, remember to share your learning with a family member, caregiver, or friend, complete the weekly fluency activity, and do at least 20 minutes of additional reading. Here's our riddle of the day. I am a 4-digit number, and when converted to a Roman numeral, I become a common 3-letter word, meaning blend. What number am I? Take a moment and think about that. Let's get our brains warmed up and begin to think, scholars. What do you think? The answer is the number is 1009, and that is equivalent to mix. M represents 1000, and the letters IX represent the number 9. Okay, now I get it. The materials you'll need for this lesson are listed and displayed on our screen here. Let's review our materials. Our weekly text for this week is Lesson 39, which can be found on page 112. You'll need your note catcher from page 113. The text, the actual poem, can be found on pages 110 and 111. You'll need a pencil, and then you have an optional material for this week. We do have a YouTube link. We've displayed the link here on the screen. And whenever you like, please revisit that link so that you can hear a 2.5-minute read aloud of our poem, Annabel Lee. To quickly introduce this week's focus, we are engaging in our study of Annabel Lee, this poem, and we're keeping these two guiding questions in mind. Do we determine our own destinies, and do we have to accept our destinies? Those are the guiding questions. Here's our learning target. For Lesson 39, I can read a poem using first read thinking strategies, and I can write a summary of the text using evidence. Today, we'll start by reading the poem aloud. Read it and then reread it again. Poems need to be read multiple times in order to get the gist. Then think about what's happening in the poem and try to picture it. In other words, use imagery to figure out what's going on. Talk with a friend, family member, and tell them what you think Annabel Lee is about, and then we'll engage in our writing activities. Now, as you start reading, I'd like for you to do this. Read and reread the poem aloud, because reading a poem differs from reading a longer text. You can easily reread to gain a clearer understanding of the poem's meaning. Now, as you read, this is what you should be thinking about. Think about the images the poem creates in your mind. And these images should help you to complete the first reading guide and to better comprehend the poem. Today, I'll model for you what I think you could be doing. Let me show you how I did a first read of the text here. It was many and many a year ago. in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. Well, from that first stanza of the poem, I can already imagine a maiden whom we know from the title. Her name is Annabel Lee, who lives in this kingdom by the sea and who's preoccupied by thoughts of love. Let's continue our first read. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted, her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. Well, from this third stanza, it reveals that there was a special love that the narrator or the poet, perhaps Edgar Allan Poe himself, had with the beautiful maiden Annabel Lee. We can also glean that there was somehow a negative impact, and it was described in the vivid imagery of weather or a chilling wind. We also have the benefit of footnotes at the bottom of page 110. So when you come across a word that you don't understand, go back to those footnotes so that you can define difficult words you might encounter in the poem. Next, you should talk to a friend or family member and tell them what you think Annabel Lee is about. Remember to share because it helps you to fully comprehend the poem. And feel free to share both where you feel clear and any areas where you were confused. Now let's engage in the writing activity. First, let's review the first read routine. We start by noticing who is speaking in the poem, and then we annotate by marking vocabulary and key passages we want to revisit. Then, we close out the writing activity and finish the first read routine by connecting ideas in the poem to what we already know about destiny. And lastly, we respond by briefly summarizing this poem. If you have questions, get stuck on anything at all, feel free to email your ELA teacher for support. As a preview of tomorrow's learning, we'll be on lesson 40, and here's our target. I can closely read a poem, and I can infer the mood of a poem from its imagery. Thank you for learning with me today. I look forward to teaching you again soon. As a reminder, don't forget to talk about your lesson with someone. Read for 20 minutes a day and complete your reading log entry, and then practice your reading fluency using the first or the second page of this week's reading. Thank you. Bye.